Alright, so today we gotta unload the Jeep. So I bought a couple things on online auction recently, and one of them was a bit heavier than I expected and a bit bigger than I expected. So I got a Miller Spot Welder with a 5-second timer attached to it, and I also got a Toledo 1,000 pound capacity scale. So the Spot Welder had a part of a stand for it, so pull that out. So we'll take a look at the welder in a few minutes after we get the scale out of here. So to get this in, we used a forklift as well as a few people to try and get it in here, because the weight's not very well distributed on this. I gotta find a place where I can get a hook on it without rolling it over as well. So we'll see if we can figure something out here without doing any more damage to the vehicle. So this is a 2-ton engine crane, so it's more than capable of doing the job. Bring it up. I leave it down when I can to keep any water damage in the piston. I don't know if you can see it in the shot or not, but it's a 2-action pump on the cylinder, so it goes up when you're pumping up and down. I will say I'm not really a big fan of the hook that came on this. Maybe it's because I don't have a lot of experience using them, but I find it kind of cumbersome to hook on anything with it. So let's see if I can get this thing to come out a little bit. Of course, we're hooked on the seats. There's a kind of a plate that covers the weighing portion of the scale here. There's some resistive parts on each side that I need to prevent from getting damaged. I need to get the hook on here. I think I'm going to put a chain on this piece here. So I just stop the video, pull the camera off the stand, and I'll show you kind of what I'm working with. Okay, so we've got the chain on here, ready to grab it with the hook. And so I put it around one of the caster wheels, but this big frame is not actually part of the scale, so I got to make sure it doesn't wiggle out of there and fall out. But it's pretty deep. See part of the Toledo name there. So I got a nut onto one of the parts of the stand here for the display. So I think I should be able to get this out of here. See, I did some damage when we put it in with the forklift. I was not really expecting it to be as large as it was, so it was a bit unprepared, and there was a lot of people at the auction, so I just had to get it in and deal with it later. Alright, let's see if we can get it out of there. It's going to be a bit heavier towards the back, so we should grab it from there. use the Jeep to kind of stand it back up again, because I don't think I can right this on my own. Caught up on the carpet. I guess we'll start putting it down. Hopefully we can do that in a controlled manner. It's working pretty good, Heather, and that's why I don't like this hook on here. You can't grab onto the chain properly. So I'm looking at getting something to put in between there. Going down, down and back. Seems like I'm going to have to do the last little bit on my own. Hopefully it is not surprising. Running out of space. See if we can get this stood up. He's going to go rolling away on me. Success. So this will plug it in and see if it works. Get to where it's off to go. Let's give that a shot. No fire. That's good. Might actually be working. Guess you can't see that from there. So I just put the cover back on it and see if that tears it out or not. Yeah, I felt that. 0. Throw a piece of pipe on here. Yeah, 14.5 pounds. That little piece of pipe. Well, there we go. Success. I wasn't sure if I was going to be stuck with that thing in the Jeep long term or what. So I guess we'll pull out the welder now. Show you how that works. it's a Miller Spot Welder. The manual for this dates back to 1978, so they've been making these things for an awful long time. They haven't really changed too much. It's about 50 pounds for the full welder. And this one actually came with a stand like I showed you as I pulled it out. And the stand was supposed to be set up so that you could use a foot lever to push down on the tongs. And then the lever would operate the switch in here and give it a 10-second or a 5-second shot depending on what you set it up for. So I'll do another video about that later on because I got some plans for this. It's rated for 3/16 of an inch, which is pretty good, so you can tack weld sheet metal to angle iron. A couple other things that I got as part of this batch that were kind of like just bonuses. Hope we can get enough light here to see or not. So this bin here was one lot at the auction. It came with just some welding glasses, and not too big of a deal. It came with a nice rigid pipe cutter. You can use this on ABS pipe. This one's rated for 4.5. I used to use one of these at work, and I could get it to cut 5 or 4-inch ABS, which is 5-inch OD. So this is worth quite a bit of money. I was happy with that. The electrical tester is not part of that batch. That was just in the vehicle. It came with a flow meter. Wasn't my desired item, but it came with it, so that's all right. Airflow anemometer. I could probably do better saying that than that. Anemometer. All right, that's the word for the day. Anemometer. But what I was really after in this set was two things. So if you break off the tap, you can use these tap extractors to remove taps. So they're a square drive like your tap set would be. And these fingers go down over your broken tap inside the hole, and you can turn out the broken tap. So I was pretty excited to see that in the batch, but what I didn't know was there were actually 2 sets of these. So there's a larger set. These are Walton tap extractors. And then it had another smaller set of tap extractors here. Sorry for the light. I've struggled with this to the end of time. There you go. Drop the light on the floor. But yeah, so there's another set of tap extractors there. Came with a bunch of lenses for welding goggles. I'm not going to use those. I'll move those on to someone who can use them. Just a small set of drill bits. Always need them once in a while. I don't know if these are quality bits or not. Probably came from machine shops. There's a possibility that they're decent. Came with some Allen keys. Again, not what I was desiring, but a bonus to get that in the auction. A Blue Point screw extractor set. So these are a bit different than what you might be used to seeing on the marketplace these days. So with these ones, you drill a hole down inside the bit, or inside the broken screw, and then there's a grooved shaft. You pound that into the screw that you drilled out, and then you remove it with this. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's got matching splines inside of it. So that's pretty cool. But what I was really after was to go with the other batch of items I'm going to show you. Is this, there's a Roper Whitney hand punch here. So it's fairly complete. It's missing the depth stop that you can put on here, which is not a big deal. I can pick up I can just make a depth stop. It's already threaded, so that's easy enough. So we'll do a little video on how this thing works. These are available from Roper Whitney still, and there's so many Chinese knockoffs of these now that they're kind of getting a little more reasonable with their pricing. So you can go ahead and buy the real thing. Sorry, the camera just moved here on me. All right, so we'll get this out of the way. The other thing that I got in the set, so that's the paperwork for the welder. It doesn't show me how much they paid for it. But when I checked the serial number, this one was made in 2004. But like I said, this manual here, one of them is from 1978. And anyway, still applicable. Not much to say about that at this time. So in this one here, I wanted to get these rivet squeezers, but I actually got a nibbler. I didn't know what it was in the pictures. It wasn't worth traveling to see it in person. So this here is a Duplex Power Tools nibbler. Now believe it or not, this thing is rated for 1/8 of an inch mild steel. It's 3.2 millimeter mild steel and 2 millimeter stainless steel. So this thing is quite the heavy hitter. So I'm going to do a video on trying to cut some mild steel with this. It's, what is it rated for? 6.4 amps, 600 strokes per second. It's a Type N 10K. So we'll do a video about this because that's pretty neat. It came with this pneumatic riveter here. I don't know too much about it. It doesn't have any markings for brand on it, but I suspect that it's probably decent quality. But so what it came with were these Roper Whitney rivet squeezers. So you put the rivet in there like a solid aluminum rivet, depending on what kind of die you're using. You just squeeze it with the hands. So it came with 2 of the large ones. I haven't measured these yet, but they're probably 5 inches. I don't have a tape measure here, so I'm not exactly sure. But we'll do a video on these separately. These ones came from Whitney Systems Canada. So it's some kind of engineering manufacturing part of the company. So like these are all from the engineering division, so they weren't really used very much. And it came with a smaller model as well. So it's the same arms for operating it, but then a smaller depth. So I assume that they had 2 of them set up all the time, and if they needed 2 deep ones, they just put the deep piece onto here. And what I thought was interesting was like they didn't use the Roper Whitney tooling. They just used like a stainless bolt here with the end polished, then a stainless bolt here with the end cut off, just to make their own tooling. So that's pretty smart, because these are about $400 US per complete piece, and I don't know what that adapter is worth. And then it also came with one of these like cheap ones here. So you can see that you got to grip it with your hand to finish squeezing the rivet, which is kind of unrealistic. So I wouldn't recommend using one of these unless you really had to. Depends on the quantity of rivets you got to go over. And there's something here, honestly, I don't know what it is. Like it seems to be happily joined together right now, and you can split it. So it's for setting up fixtures of some sort. Part number is DE-STA-00. It doesn't say any branding on it. So if anyone knows what that is, please let me know. If not, I'll try to figure it out. Then it came with a nail puller. I don't know how that got into the batch, but it's there as well. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. I'm still working on things. The Hupmobile is still here. Haven't gotten very far with it lately. Just been working on the wiring for the EFI, trying to get it a standalone wiring harness split off from the main harness. So that was something I've been doing. Dirt bike never sold, so it's here. That's all right. I tried to sell it. That was the main part of the commitment there I'd made. And it didn't sell for whatever reason. Probably the pricing with all the parts on it is a bit high. People wanted to buy the parts and then split it, or have me split it up to sell it with the separate wheels and whatnot, but I decided not to do that. So got the scale here, hasn't caught on fire yet. Oh, the other thing that I've got to deal with this welder is that it's got a 220 volt plug on it. Now I've seen one of these before. So it's I think it's a 15 amp plug at 220. So I need to make an adapter to plug in to where my welder gets hooked up here. So I'll do that. There's a fuse inside of that welder, so I'm not too worried about running it off of a 50 amp circuit. Which in fact, this is only a 30 amp circuit to begin with, so it's more than okay. It's just I've got a big receptacle on it for my welder. So, thank you for watching.